get it going here. Last panel of the day. Really looking forward to it. My name is Mason Maliwauki. Pleasure to be here. A couple years ago, I did my first panel at FanX. Okay. A couple years ago, did our first panel at FanX. My first panel. A little closer? Okay, a little closer. Called the Grandmaster Jedi Luke Skywalker, and that was an awesome panel talking about extended universe Luke. In terms of me, love Star Wars. I've been a big fan of Star Wars ever since I was a kid, reading books, watching movies, of course, and video games, as is the topic of today's panel.
Mine's really similar. I was also on the Grandmaster Luke panel, and we're really excited to keep talking about the expanded universe and those stories that we grew up reading and loving. And it's no shade against the Disney stuff, but hey, there are other Star Wars stories that were written and were played through, and we're so happy to be able to keep talking about those. I grew up mostly reading like young Jedi Knights, so when I was introduced to Kyle, he was already like fully formed Jedi Master, teaching all the little kids. And it was really cool going back, seeing his story, and really excited to talk about that.
All right. So what we want to focus on today is the Jedi Knight series as a whole, with Kyle Katarn as the focal point. So first we want to touch on Kyle Katarn as the character, then we're going to talk about the game franchise as kind of a general summary and some differences and similarities between the games, and then talk about video games as a storytelling medium, specifically for the Star Wars universe. We'll flesh that more out. First off though, a little context. The very first Jedi Knight game that came out, Dark Forces, was debuted in February of '95. And so Kyle Katarn was introduced in that game from 1977, A New Hope, until 1994. There was roughly, what am I saying here? Roughly 63 things that were introduced into the Star Wars canon, if you will. 3 movies, 3 television movies, like the holiday special, 2 TV series, about 26 novels or so, some comics, and the video games. 20 video games, but they were mostly adapted directly from the movies themselves. So not a whole lot of variation, not a whole lot of differences.
Right, these are like the big arcade cases, right? And the big arcade case where you would hold, kind of like the Jurassic Park games, you're holding the blaster and you're shooting the AT-ATs and you're just playing through the movie beats.
Yep. Or you're on the side-scroller Atari playing the Empire Strikes Back Walker Assault mission.
Yeah.
So very, very archaic. Fast forward to 1995 to 99. This is prequel era. The prequel. You've got 30 to 35 novels, almost 20 distinct comic series, and 25 video games. So in all, roughly 75 to 80 things that were introduced in a 4-year time span, before the launch of Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars and everything that came from that. This was an unprecedented expansion of the Star Wars universe, and 90s kids were living well. And you could argue,
hey, we have game sound coming through our monitor.
There we go.
Thank you.
You could argue that the Jedi Knight games were the spear point, the tip of the spear for this rapid expansion, and Kyle Katarn was the face of this. Now, who was Kyle Katarn? How many of you have played the Dark Forces game, the very first one released in February '95? You'll recognize the guy there on the top. Over the course of the 5 games, there have been 3 different animated versions of Kyle Katarn, 4 different voice actors, and it's kind of been a hodgepodge of a series from an artwork standpoint. But he started off life as a stormtrooper. He was actually in the Empire. He was an officer training to lead troops. He turned Rebel Alliance operator after a defection. He was a Jedi. He was a mercenary for hire. And at the end of it all, as he rounds out his story in the Young Jedi Knight books and Luke Skywalker's Jedi Praxium, he does become a full-fledged Jedi Master. Now, some of the things that really stick out to us about Kyle Katarn, first off, and what makes a great character, a great hero, is his strong moral character. Right at the very beginning, when he was a stormtrooper in the service of the Empire, we always see the Empire as the big bad, forgetting that there's a lot of people inside the Empire that may not have the same moral compass as the Emperor or Darth Vader. He actually defied several orders repeatedly in order to save the lives of rebel prisoners, save the lives of slaves. In fact, one of the prisoners that he ended up saving would be his future partner / love interest, Jan Ors, who's pictured up there on the top right.
I mean, we've seen that same story play out a couple times now. Finn goes through the same thing,
Yep.
and in Andor season 2, we actually see Luthen. We don't know what he was. I don't think he was Imperial. I don't think he was a stormtrooper, but he clearly went through this defection period from what he was to, I need to go join this rebellion. So we've seen, even though they took away Kyle, we've actually seen his beats of his story play out several times since.
Definitely. Upon defecting from the Empire, he did defect to the fledgling Rebel Alliance, who were very small at the time. After discovering that Jarek, who was one of the pseudo-leaders of the splintered Empire, well, I guess it wasn't really splintered at that point. He was trying to do his own thing. Jarek's a whole...
There's a mess.
He's a whole discussion in and of himself. But Jarek is trying to find... Jarek is trying to find what's called Valley of the Jedi, an immense force power source. And he actually ends up killing Kyle's father, who is aware of the coordinates for that. Murders his father in cold blood, steals the coordinates. When Kyle finds this out, he actually abandons the Empire, just straight leaves with Jan after a job. So yeah, just playing strong moral character. Despite his history, he dropped everything at the beat of a hat because his morals did not align. During the course of his travels to revenge against Jarek, you could say, there was a number of minions that Jarek would send after him. One of them, the first one being a man named Yoon, who was kind of on the fence between Dark Jedi and Light Side. He really didn't know where he fit, and when Kyle defeated him in armed combat, Yoon threw down his lightsaber, and Kyle actually let him go. He let him live after that, showing mercy. In fact, he repeated the same thing later in his very similar revenge arc against an alien creature named Desan, when Tavion, one of Desan's disciples, was unarmed, despite him thinking that she killed Jan, which is another story. He showed her mercy and let her escape with her life. All right. Loyalty. I mean, another great thing about our favorite hero characters is their loyalty. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, all the classics. Kyle exhibits much of that same loyalty. While he was in the Empire, he was a devoted soldier to his troops. He did things to save the lives of his troops and make sure that they were taken care of. And even while he was technically a mercenary for hire, allied with the Rebel Alliance, but he wasn't in their ranks, he was still trusted by Mon Mothma with incredible jobs. I mean, the very first mission in Dark Forces is the stealing of the Death Star plans. That was one of the first things that the developers said, we want this to happen. And Mon Mothma trusted Kyle with this mission. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do at all.
I mean, again, we see, I do love that we're seeing some of these stories come back, even if we're not seeing him come back, right? This plays out so much like what they did with Cassian, right? He is a mercenary. We don't see much of his mercenary stuff, but we know he was a mercenary during that time. But for the rebels that he's working with, that they'll come to him with, I mean, Andor was go save Mon Mothma. That was his big plan, right? They have a different way now that the Death Star plans came to them. So not that one, but I do like seeing these beats that are in these characters we like to come back, and that's really great.
Well, it's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys thought this, who are big Kyle fans like we are, but when the Rogue One trailer first dropped and I saw Cassian in the shadows, I was like, oh my gosh, they're bringing back Kyle Katarn. And I was so hyped. Of course, it wasn't him, but then Star Wars Battlefront came out, or Star Wars Battlefront, the first Star Wars Battlefront 2015, there was a DLC and extra content for Rogue One, and it actually included some blasters from the Jedi Knight games, and I was tripping. It was great.
Yeah. So, he has some interesting brushes. He's already, forgiven people and let them go, but then he has a complete fall to the dark side himself. And this, I think, is so much of the Star Wars story is that fight of light and dark, and how close some of these Jedi are to falling. We see Anakin fall. We know Dooku fell. Han Krell?
Yeah, Han Krell in the
Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars and stuff, yeah.
He never really says he's a Sith, but
just trying to give some away. They hook you up with a bunch of goodies.
And then Luke we see getting so close. And
Fighting Vader off the map at the end of episode 6.
Yeah, very close. Yes. I mean, Palpatine wanted him as his new apprentice. That's where he was, right? So, but that also, again, the Luke panel is not this one, but I love that Kyle could fall to the dark side, and he did. He fell, and then Luke, who has brushed the dark side himself and brought his father back, could be his mentor to come back from that.
Yeah.
Right. Now he kind of, I don't remember if it's willingly or not, but he goes to the Valley of the Jedi and actually gives up all of his force powers. And that's kind of his penance, as it were. It's the self-infliction of what Aang does to Ozai. Right?
Yeah.
Me with the force is too much.
Yeah.
I'm going to get rid of this. And then we have some interesting, that's actually where the Jedi Knight game picks up, is that he's actually stripped of all of his force powers before you get this stuff.
In Jedi Outcast, yeah.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what's cool about that as well, I mean, we see Luke's fall to the dark side being resisted by his love for his friends, despite Obi-Wan and Yoda saying, beware of your feelings, they will betray you, Palpatine will usurp them and take you over. Luke is relying on his friends and the love he has for his friends in order to pull him out of that. In a very similar way, Kyle is relying on his friends. In Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, when Kyle falls to the dark side, you actually initially start the game playing as Kyle, and then it switches to Mara Jade, who was introduced by Timothy Zahn in the 91, 92, 93 Heir to the Empire books. We love Timothy Zahn here. She was introduced in this video game, and she's a playable character. You play half the game with her, and she's the one that ends up drawing Kyle back from the brink. They had established a relationship, almost a teacher-student relationship, and she was the one that traveled to Droman Cass, where Kyle was. And during their duel, she actually disengages. She turns off her lightsaber, stands there, and says, "I'm not going to kill you, Kyle. I'm done killing. The Emperor's not going to have that way with me anymore." Kyle goes to her neck and draws back.
We're again really similar to the battle in Return of the Jedi, right? She plays Luke's character right here.
Yeah, I love this. It's like poetry.
Keep going.
It rhymes. All right, so the Jedi Knight franchise as a whole, this was just very pivotal parts of my childhood. I mean, I was only born in '92, so clearly I was not a toddler playing Dark Forces. My mom definitely would not have let me because we were rated teen. But Dark Forces releases February 1995, and this is groundbreaking for Star Wars. I mean, it is a Doom clone, you can say, because Doom and Wolfenstein and Quake were coming out like, it's just another iteration. When in fact it was doing a lot of things differently. They were adding a lot of verticality that were not present in Doom. If you remember playing the original Doom and Wolfenstein games, if you had verticality, you were actually going up slopes in order to engage in verticality. In order to engage in verticality, everything was still flat and planar. In Dark Forces, it may seem minor to us now in 2025, but in '95, introduction of hover lifts. And actual pieces of tech go up and down and back and forth.
Yeah, it was one of the first that had like true three-dimensional, right? And my recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. My recollection is that in Doom, the other one, that if an enemy is above you, you don't actually have to aim up.
Correct.
The verticality was a fiction. It was virtual verticality. But if I need to shoot something there, I could aim here.
And horizontally and hit it with an auto tracker.
Right.
Yeah. Introduction to Dark Forces, you actually had to aim up in order to fire those shots.
It looks, on the surface, it looks a lot like a Doom clone. It does a lot more from a story standpoint and from a technical standpoint.
Yep. Like we said, the Dark Forces game, you step into the boots of Kyle Katarn. In your first mission, taking the Death Star plans straight from the Empire, giving those to the Rebel Alliance. But over the course of the game, you engage in a lot of other mercenary missions, culminating in the destruction of the Dark Trooper project. The Dark Troopers,
the first
Dark Troopers, yes, the better ones in my opinion.
No, I mean they come back. We keep getting Dark Troopers again.
I mean,
that's Shadow Troopers, I suppose. They're anyway.
No, different. But yes, the Dark Trooper program. Not touched on a lot in media. You actually play them in the original Star Wars Battlefront games. There's an Imperial troop, the Dark Trooper, which is kind of fun. Fast forward to 1997, and this is where some of the nomenclature starts getting really wonky. So we have Star Wars Dark Forces, and then we have Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. And that's the name. And it's like, wait a minute, it shouldn't be Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. No, flip those. This introduces the very first proper 3D game. It's not a first-person shooter anymore. It is an optional first-person or
You can go to third person, and it's here that you start to wield a lightsaber. You don't have a lightsaber in Dark Forces.
Yep, Dark Forces are straight
grab
person.
that in, which, well, I'm looking at, I think it's Star Wars Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. It's just a really weird font choice.
It's odd, yeah, because Jedi Knight and then Dark Forces 2.
But this is one of the first times you get to wield a lightsaber in the game, and it jumps to third person, and that moment, you don't even know it's really coming. You get to grab it, I have the lightsaber!
And in proper Jedi fashion, it's a lightsaber. It one-hits every enemy it touches. You can cut through grates with it. You can find puzzles and access areas previously undiscovered. It's a proper lightsaber. It's
Honestly,
amazing.
that's one of the things I loved about the lightsabers in these games. You hit KOTOR, you hit Battlefront 2, you hit these other ones where you have
New
lightsabers,
Star Wars games.
but they turn them into sticks that you have to fight, hit things to kill it. And it's
Like baseball bats.
This is a lightsaber. What do you mean I have to hit it again?
Yep.
I hit it. It should be dead. And in this, that's how they work. And it works that way against you too.
Yes.
And that's also like your mortality in the game is right in your face the whole time.
Exactly. Now, the cool thing about this as well, this is the first proper introduction of lightsaber combat in Star Wars video games. There was a lightsaber section in the Star Wars arcade trilogy, if you remember that, with the joystick and stuff like that. You're Luke Skywalker defending against Boba Fett and Picard Coon, you're Luke Skywalker fighting against Darth Vader, but it's very stationary, it's on wheels. This is completely playable as a character, first time ever. Cool. 1998 comes around, and we get a very interesting official third title that actually began life as extra content for Jedi Knight. We get Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith. Again, odd nomenclature because one would think it would be like a Dark Forces 3 or something, but no, it's just Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith. Okay, so Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, we touched on Kyle, Mara,
This is where
split
Mara
campaign.
comes in, where she plays the other half of it, and where we get that redemption arc.
And it's kind of cool. She's actually the one who's front and cover on the box art.
Yeah.
It's Kyle's game, but it stars Mara.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But we get a lot of good things from there as well. You get more enemies, much smoother gameplay, far more advanced force powers. I mean, how can we even talk about Jedi Knight without talking about the force powers? I mean, the introduction of force powers in Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 and Jedi Mysteries of the Sith was unbelievable. You had force speed, force pull, force push. You had all these things that you can actually interact with the world. If you see a group of stormtroopers, you're like, hey, I don't want you to have a gun anymore. Yoink. And you just take the guns straight out of their hands and they just start flailing around, running around. Actually, in Mysteries of the Sith, if you yoink the guns out of their hands, they'll come up with you with fists. And they actually try punching you to death, which is pretty fun. So, yeah, Mysteries of the Sith.
I just realized something that I had not considered before.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm looking at the box art here for Mysteries of the Sith.
Yeah.
And the story has always been that the first time we have a lightsaber that isn't blue, green, or red is when Samuel Jackson asks for it. But it actually shows up in this game in '98. I hadn't realized that it actually existed, that idea existed before.
Yeah, I want to see, we don't have a lot of people here, but I want to see who's a true nerd. Does anyone know what other game RJ shows up in with a purple lightsaber? This is a massive deep cut.
There are no hands.
How many of you have heard of the PlayStation 1 title, Masters of Terras Kasi? There we go. Masters of Terras Kasi was a Tekken fighting game that Star Wars made in the 90s, and it's gloriously bad. It's so bad, but it's awesome. Mara Jade's a playable character, and she's got her purple lightsaber. So, 1998, we've got Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith on yet a different engine from Dark Forces. Fast forward to 2002, we've got a company called Ravensoft that comes around. They obtain the property for Jedi Knight. They go, you know what? Let's warp this into the 21st century. And boy, howdy do they. I love Dark Forces. I love Jedi Knight. I love Mysteries of the Sith, but Jedi Outcast has my heart.
Best game ever!
It is undeniably my favorite Star Wars game. I know KOTOR's great.
There
I
was
love
an
Republic
initial
Commando.
concept of this panel where all we were going to do was speed run the game up here.
Max cheats. But yeah, Jedi Outcast was unbelievable. It takes everything that Jedi Knight 2 did and scaled everything.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go Isaac.
So, like, watching Star Wars growing up, I always thought it doesn't make sense why they can't use Force choke and Force lightning sometimes, because Luke totally does when he goes into Jabba's lair.
Definitely.
And so when I saw this game, I felt vindicated.
Yes.
It's totally possible.
Yes. Well, and that's the fun thing. These games introduce you proper choice. If you want to develop your Force powers as Kyle Katarn and Jedi Outcast and go full max grip, max lightning, and just blast everyone into oblivion, you can do it.
It was really interesting. It wasn't a proper RPG. It wasn't KOTOR. It wasn't choose your alignment. But there was enough things that you could choose along the way that you could end, like you said, like you could just be a Force Lightning and Force Choke Jedi Knight at the end of this game, or you could do all just push, pull, and throw your lightsaber. Like that was open to you to do it how you wanted to.
I mean, this was Force Unleashed before Force Unleashed. It was cool. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you come to the mic? I'm missing it, and I know they're missing it. Okay.
Like, was it a tough game to play? Like, where's the mechanics hard to do?
The mechanics are very straightforward. The application of them taxes your skills. I will actually touch on that in just a little bit.
We're close.
Put a pin in that.
But it was really nice that there was a full, like, easy, medium, hard, and super deadly, and the cheats were really easy to access. So if you're totally stuck, you could turn on God mode for 5 minutes if you wanted. Or if you're feeling like it's too easy, you could also put in a cheat that puts your health to 10% for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So you can actually adjust how hard do you want this, do that.
Yep.
But the mechanics worked quite simply. Whoa.
Yeah. It's a very easy game to get into, and then you can scale up from there, definitely. So Jedi Outcast flipped everything on its head. We had the introduction of fantastic new story elements, excellent voice acting, excellent character work, some great cohesion with the Star Wars world around it at its time. I mean, in 2002, we're two prequel movies in. We are hundreds of books into the Star Wars canon at this point, and this slots in exactly where it needs to be and bona fides everything around it. It
was so great that at the time this also fit perfectly. This did not disrupt anything in the movies or in the main books people would go for. It actually fit at the time with everything else going on around it. I also think it's interesting that they've completely dropped the idea that of Dark Forces. That's gone.
The naming nomenclature, again,
it's gone.
Has shifted.
It's Star Wars Jedi Outcast Jedi Knight 2.
Now, when my brother got this game for his birthday in 2002, he was 15 years old. We've actually got a home video. I tried to get the home video and show it to everyone. I mean, it would embarrass the absolute heck out of him, but it is him freaking out that he's got this box, the big paper boxes that they used to come in.
When they used to come in
the flip front, and it's holographic, and he's like, oh my gosh, and he's losing his mind. I didn't even know for like 10 years that it was Jedi Knight 2. I thought that the symbol there with the JK and the two lights, I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool way to do JK. And I'm like, oh, Jedi Knight 2. Oh, okay, that's numbers. Roman numerals with, I got you. Yeah, it took a while for me to get that.
There's a full story there, it's amazing. And then we do hit Jedi Academy, and that one, Kyle is no longer a playable character. You are entering the Academy as a new Padawan. And Kyle is one of the masters that you can interact with.
He is your master through the game.
Yeah. So now you've seen him full circle. You've seen him from the Stormtrooper through the fall to the dark side, through a Jedi Knight, and then a Jedi Master in his own right that is your master. So for any of us who started on the early ones, that full circle was so gratifying to hit.
Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing about Jedi Knight as well, just like Mysteries of the Sith did with Dark Forces 2, Jedi Academy expands everything that Outcast did. It took away some of the interesting things, like there was an inventory item
Jedi Outcast is better.
Jedi Outcast had macro binoculars, individual back-to-tanks, all these things that you can actually apply in the world and alter the gameplay and solve puzzles. Jedi Academy kind of nixed that, made it a little more simplified, and the Force development system you got extra points after every submission you did. So if you wanted to max out your force points, you did all of the optional missions instead of just the required ones. And it follows kind of a 3 or 4 required submissions, main mission. 3 or 4 required submissions, main mission. You get some story beats in there, but it's a little looser.
Well, I mean, the whole point in that one was to become a Jedi, to be in the Jedi Academy. It did not follow a story, nor was that as much, nor was that really its purpose.
Right.
It was saying, hey, the tech is good enough, let's just let people learn to be a Jedi Knight in this game.
But definitely, you know, the developers saw the fan reactions when Darth Maul comes out in the Thean Palace and turns on both lightsabers. I was in the theater freaking out. Developers went, you know what? Our customers probably want to do that. So Jedi Academy introduces the double blade lightsaber staff, 2 double blade individual lightsabers, and whole combat styles. Everything has been developed to really tailor your experience to the game. It's the best lightsaber combat that Star Wars has ever had, and I will hang my hat on that. All right, so, I guess we kind of talked about most of those. So, video games as a storytelling medium. What does this mean for Jedi Knight as a Star Wars story? Well, the cool thing about this, as we know, all right, as common sense dictates, while you are the player character interacting with the story, it is you making the decision. The game puts you into the limelight, so you feel like the protagonist and the action hero. We know that. Now, this is the very first Star Wars story to actually provide this. There were other adapted games like Rebel Assault 1 and 2 and X-Wing and TIE Fighter, but the stories there were very loose and they were very minimal with what they offered the player.
Well, and oftentimes you weren't even the same character.
Right.
Like in some of the X-Wing games, like you're just sitting in the cockpit, it didn't matter, you're a pilot. You are a pilot. And the next mission, you're a pilot. And in the movie games, the arcade box games, you are whoever they need to be in that moment in the story, but you are not a character.
Right. And so
actually real quick, can you go back to that one? So we wrote here the story is happening to you instead of in front of you. And while I think that's true, I also think the inverse is true. The story is happening to you and you are happening to the story. Right? And in the first mission of Jedi Outcast, which I just finished playing through the game again before coming to
change your map.
You can go for 100% KO and just wipe out all the stormtroopers. There are also ways that you can do it much more sneakily, especially with you. But you can also do it legitimately. And so you can leave a bunch of people alive. You don't have to complete it in a certain way. You do have to get the key to open the door to da-da-da. But you are happening to the world in ways that you didn't get before. And it wasn't all the way there, but it was still there in a very new, very cool way.
Yeah, there are objectives to complete, and while those objectives exist, you are free to engage with them however you wish. It was very free form at the time. Now, I mean, growing up with the movies and the books and everything, the reason why Kyle always stood out to me is because he was engaged with some of the coolest events in Star Wars history, and it made me so connected to the universe to be him. I mean, right there in the top left, we've got him going to the Death Star plans in Dark Forces. We got a couple stills from Jedi Knight Dark Forces, fighting some of the minions, including this guy in the middle who's actually severed. He's like levitating himself with the Force while he fights. It's wild. And then we get to Jedi Outcast. Again, like I said, my favorite story. You've got story beats where you're on a mission, you're trying to find Jan, and who's come to back you up?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker just jumps down, starts fighting some of the reborn Jedi with you, all the way to you facing off with the big bad at the end of the game, Mr. Lizard Boy himself, Dasan.
When Luke showed up in Outcast, it was as impactful to me, if not more, as when Luke shows up in Mandalorian.
Oh, it's more to me.
And especially because he showed up in the full power of the Force. Like, he jumps down a 200-foot ledge to come get to you. And you can basically, if you want, you can basically go hide in the corner and he'll kill you.
He will, yeah. He is an unkillable player.
There's also a fantastic cheat that lets you take over as Luke. And then your Force powers are... You could do Force Unleashed in that, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Because his powers were, your powers get to 100% and his go to 300%, and he's unkillable, and you can jump over everything. That moment was amazing, seeing Luke in his full power join up with him.
And just working your way through the Star Wars universe, playing your way through something that you've read about. I mean, for me, it was an absolute dream come true.
Yep.
Now, the very first time I actually played through them all, I was in college, my first semester at BYU in 2011. Steam had just come out with the Jedi Knight trilogy, the very first time that all the games were packaged together in one go. And I said, you know what? I'm strapped for cash, but I think I can afford $20. I couldn't. But I will buy it for $20, I'll get all the games, and I'll play through them. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do each one on the hardest difficulty with no cheats.
Oh,
now,
no.
up until that point, whenever I played Jedi Outcast, who didn't? Dev map all, turn force to 3, give all weapons, unlimited ammo, everything.
I
just
played through the story
obliterated the game.
legitimately before I did that.
That's good.
It's
I was a stupid kid and I was having fun.
college, man.
But I got the games, I downloaded them, and I played through every single one on the hardest difficulty. And it's interesting, there's a lot of games where I've played the hardest difficulty, and it has, I haven't cared about the player at all. The ones that I've recently done are, I might get some flack for this, but the recent Jedi New Order or Jedi Order Outcast Survivor games, I can't get into it. I know we had a Cal Kestis. There he is. I know Cal's here, and I don't mean to disrespect you. Your cosplay's sick, by the way. It matches great. I just couldn't connect to the character very well. And while I'm playing through the game, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty, and I wouldn't consider myself a MLG pro gamer, but I didn't feel as engaged with the combat. I didn't feel like Cal's life was worth a lot, because if I died, oh hey, look, I go to the meditation circle and I'm alive. In Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy is very poignant to me. When you die, there is a death camera that spirals on your body in big red letters, "You have died." Like, this is pre-Dark Souls.
They were still leaning into the Doom motifs. Right?
Definitely.
Game over.
Yeah, it's a very prominent screen that you are
The
dead.
galaxy is doomed.
Yeah, and you gotta restart, you gotta reload wherever you last saved, which was a big thing in the 90s and the 2000s. These days, autosave has made people kind of lazy, I think, when it comes to gameplay. They just do whatever they want, and they're gonna relive wherever they autosave.
Scummy.
I can't tell you what happened the very first time I played Jedi Knight. I forgot that quick save was a thing, and I was just so immersed. I was like, oh man, I've never played Jedi Knight before. I'm a college kid. I'm skipping all my classes. Woo! I don't mean that, Mom. I was going to class. But I'm playing the game, and as I'm playing through, there's health and there's armor. I take a couple prominent hits from a stormtrooper. Oh no, I'm at 25 out of 100 health. If I take one or two more, I'm gone. I'm dead. And so I'm like,
The
carefully going through.
stormtroopers in this game are the
Punishing.
stormtroopers that Obi-Wan says are the most precise in the galaxy.
The ones that storm Tantive 4, the ones that take out Hoth before they get wiped out by teddy bears. The stormtroopers in
These
these games are
stormtroopers were
terrifying.
a threat. And that's actually one thing, the difficulty turned up their precision. They got
Oh, yeah.
more precise.
Yes.
So if you turn it up all the way, they headshot everything they shoot.
It's brutal.
It's so
absolutely brutal. And so I was playing through Jedi Knight. I never played the game before, and I'm trying to find my way through the puzzles. And at the beginning of Jedi Knight, it's not stormtroopers, but there's a bunch of gangsters and whatnot. And most of them, half of them, are equipped with thermal detonator grenades, and they're just lobbing at you with infinite, reckless abandon. And I was just getting blown up to shreds. And I'm like, okay, I'm really dying. I really need help. I don't know this game. I don't know where the pickups are. I played for like 2 hours, and then I died. And I
Without
woke up.
saving.
I woke up reloading my save at the beginning of the game, and I was like, shit. It's a whole 2 hours that I wasted. So, while you're playing these games on the hardest difficulty, I keep pointing at you because I want to make sure that that pin is answered. You feel like you are Kyle. Your life is his life. His life is in your hands. And if you're doing the wrong thing, if you're leaping into a room with 20 stormtroopers inside of it, you're gonna die. And that's the thing.
These graphics were realistic at the time. This
Oh, yeah.
was the best graphics you could get when they came out. So it definitely felt a lot. I am looking at the
I need to go
time, and just,
potty.
if there are questions as we go, let's get hands raised, because I don't know if we're going to have like a time at the end to questions, but just like we've had, if there's questions, we can just raise hand through the next 15 minutes. Cool? Yeah. No hands. Keep going. Oh, was that the end of your slides? I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
just leaving it on these glorious pictures. I love these pictures. I love these games.
There is so much material also introduced here, but so you get Shadow Troopers. And Shadow Troopers is a large part of the plot. It was one of those things that at the beginning of the game, you have no idea that was the plot. You get halfway through, there's a new side plot, and that side plot leads you into, oh shoot, this Imperial side group. It actually reminds me a lot of Moff Gideon. They went on to create a Shadow Troopers that they had taken a bunch of people to the Valley of the Jedi, which imbued them with force powers. And then they gave them cortosis suits so that lightsabers couldn't hurt them.
Those ones are the Jedi Reborn that they took to the Valley of the Jedi.
Yes,
and
thank you. Thank you.
And then they went around and they stole force energy from a lot of places and developed these force crystals, which you can actually go to the mining planet. There's a whole series of missions where you go to a mining planet, interrupt their crystal mining operation, and these crystals are harnessing force power, and they're basically creating these anti-lightsaber suits made of cortosis metal, which is awesome. And these crystals are embedded in the suits, and while wearing the suit, they're empowered with force abilities. It's an incredible.
Which includes turning invisible.
Yeah, they got cloaking shields.
Sucked.
Which was the worst. You'd have like 3 of them in a room. You were like running, and then all 3 ignite their lightsabers. You're like, okay, shoot. And
Yes.
they're very prominent.
Oh, lover of Jedi outcasts.
Yes.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about the PvP stuff that Jedi Knight 2 had?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
That was one of
I-
my first experience with PvP where I decided I don't spend enough time online and these guys are going to kill me every single time.
So when I was playing this on PC, I didn't have an online. I was playing on our laptop that wasn't connected to the internet, so I never got to play it PvP there. It wasn't until years later that we got it on the GameCube release. And then I still wasn't doing online, but then me and my brothers could plug some controllers in and PvP it there. But those lightsabers are still just as deadly.
Oh, yeah.
Those blasters still work just like it.
Well, and
One of the challenges I have with D&D and other things like it is the heroes are so much more powerful than the villains. You have your abilities, they have their abilities, and the twain shall never meet. When you jumped into the PvP arena, you're equal, and their lightsaber will cut your leg off or your hand off, and you can recreate Bespin if you want to.
some great death animations.
So it sounds like you probably know the PvP better than I do.
I do, yeah. I've got a question right here, though.
So, like in Battlefront, did you have like a stamina for your lightsaber? Like you kind of just keep blocking and like hitting? If we need like a run out of that?
So when it comes to the mechanics of blocking, whether it was story mode or PvP, you actually leveled up, and so you gained enough experience, and your blocking would actually passively improve as you played the story. And in the PvP, you had that full passive blocking that you could actually spec into your character. There was a whole spec tree of like passive skills into the PvP, which is really cool. So
But
yeah,
there
no
wasn't
stamina
like
there.
a stamina thing.
No, you could swing and swing and swing and swing, and that was totally fine. The force was where it was limited. So you had a 100-point-meter force bar, and if you were throwing your lightsaber, then that would take as much force as it required. And you could actually hold it out too. So if you wanted to like walk down a hallway and there's like 10 stormtroopers, you could just pinwheel your lightsaber, hold it in front of you, run down the hallway, and slice everyone in half. It was
Which is either
glorious.
post late game or cheats.
It was wonderful. But then when you were through with that force power, lightsaber turned to your hand, you had to wait for that force meter to refill.
But that was really only a mechanic they needed in Battlefront as a balancing against a lot of the blaster characters.
You got tons of blaster people, and then you've got gods with invincible beams of light. And
Right. So no, they didn't need the meter there because the mechanics work differently.
Yeah.
I will say I did quite a bit of PvP back in the day. It's been a long time, so my memory is kind of fuzzy. But one of the things that I really enjoyed that I wish they would bring back in some of the more modern games was stances. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yes.
I think it was like light and heavy.
Light, heavy,
and really played
medium.
a lot into the PvP too, and there was a bit
Definitely.
of strategizing against what form your opponent was using.
Definitely.
And you could win fights kind of with any stance, but you had to kind of feel it out. That was a really cool.
There was a lot of
Exactly.
art and dance, which is how sword fighting should be, and they captured that the best that they could in 2002. And that was also useful playing against Dasan and playing against Reborn. They used stances, you used stances. There was a lot of that back and forth dance that was really, really active. Other games have done it more. Other games have, I think, even let you actually interact with the different 7 forms. But yeah, they did give you the light, medium, heavy, and those meant different useful things in that battle.
Definitely, yeah. Well, in the PvP, I didn't play it because, again, when it came out in 2002, I was 9 years old. My birthday's in December. So I would watch my brother play the PvP. I mean, he played Counter-Strike and everything, so this was right up his alley. And watching the absolute madness of the PvP was something I don't think we'll ever see again. You had rockets, blasters, lightsabers, everything in front of you at the same time. I think it was up to 30 people could fight at the same time.
Sounds right.
And when you have 30 people with lightsabers,
Yes, Isaac.
it was incredible.
Yes, Isaac.
Yeah, the other thing that was nice, the GameCube version was trash.
Yes, the console ports are not.
Yeah, the PC
Play it on
version was
PC,
way
you
better
can.
because you'd be playing in this huge battle royale with everyone that had like modded the ever living crap out of everything they were doing. So you get destroyed by someone with Homer Simpson body and
I mean, it was-
like, I'm not making any of that up.
It
No,
was,
absolutely.
It did Fortnite for us, right? And
Well, the crazy thing about Jedi Outcast, what Ravensoft did, you talk about Halo and the Halo Forge, and people going, you could build whatever map you wanted. Jedi Outcast had that. You
And
could make any
technically
preset you
more.
want. You could make any rule set you wanted. You could engage with the game and affect every single mechanic at every single level possible. This was true creative freedom, and it went rampant.
well, frankly, it was more than even something like modding Halo because you could just drop. I don't remember. It wasn't Unreal Engine. What was the engine behind this?
This was the no, this was Unreal 3.
Was it? Okay. You could drop in your own Unreal maps. Yeah, right. Like so you could go completely down however far you wanted to go. You go Halo, you go Call of Duty, you go these other ones that you can change the map. It's still like, okay, you can use this piece in any configuration, but this was truly, you could make any map you wanted and drop it in there.
Well, there's a lot of cool character customization too. Every single model that was in the game was available to you to be as a skin in the multiplayer. So if you want to go God mode as generic rebel soldier, you could do that. If you wanted to be Boba Fett, you could be Boba Fett. If you wanted to be Mon Mothma with Force Lightning, you could do that. It was absolutely the silliest thing in the world. It was awesome. And there's so many weapons. I mean, when we get to Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy, you've got your lightsaber and your E11 Star Wars blaster, your Stormtrooper blaster, and your TL50 heavy blasters. But you've got rockets. In fact, every single gun in the game has a secondary function. The rockets have a lock on. And so you can hold on this little tie wheel that loads up, releases the rocket, and it's at a slower pace, but it starts tracking the movement of whoever you locked onto. And if you don't deal with that quickly, you're toast. Thermal detonators, trip mines, electroshocks, little stun prods. They had all these super fun things that you can interact with. I mean, the game really let you challenge itself with whatever style you wanted. I mean, if you want to go on a full blaster run with Jedi Outcast, you can. It's technically possible. It's really hard. If you're gonna do it, I recommend jumping on the heads of the Reborn, because once you jump on their heads, they actually fall to the ground. Then you can just pound their faces with a blaster fire. It's actually
Well,
really
one thing I
sensible.
loved, it's Nar Shaddaa that you go to it in.
Nar Shaddaa, the infamous sniper level. Yeah.
I loved that the NPCs reacted to you.
Oh yeah.
So, you can go to Nar Shaddaa, and if you want to, you go into this smuggler den, and it's a bar, and it's filled with like 30 dudes.
Uniquely, a Chiss is the bartender. Fact, Grand Admiral Thrawn's blue skin, red eye. He's there, just chilling.
Not Thrawn, but like
a
yeah.
Chiss.
But what you're supposed to do is go to the bartender and find what he wants and go solve the puzzle and da-da-da. Or you can whip your lightsaber out and chop his head off, and all the NPCs shoot you.
Well, before that, before you even chop anyone's head off, if you're in the bar and you take out a weapon, everyone in the bar takes out a weapon and points it right at you. And it's like a Mexican standoff with legitimately 30 enemies pointing at you. And you're like, okay.
So
And then you can put it away and everyone puts theirs away.
And
It's
so
really
that's again, the world felt more real.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't just, I've played other games, like even the new Zeldas, sadly, do this. They're so great, and you pull out your weapon anywhere, and everyone's like, hey Link, what you doing? Or they just don't react to you at all. You pull out your weapon here, people care about that. They react to you, even if you're not following the story beat. The NPCs, the world reacted to your choices, whether you were following the story exactly as it should be, or if you were, I'm just gonna go blow his head off, and that's gonna change stuff for you. And you can make it through that level alive, but news spreads quickly. And now the rest of the Nar Shaddaa level is going to be harder because there are 10 times as many enemies with their blasters pointing at you. You can still do it, but the world reacts, the world lives. And that, I think, is so much of why the storytelling in this game won. And why so many of the other Star Wars games even exist. I don't think we have a Jedi Survivor and a Force Unleashed without drawing back on the storytelling and the mechanics and the ideas that came from something like this. If you get to be the character and and interact with the world and with the story in those ways. We're not at full RPG yet, but we got to be Kyle in ways that we didn't get to before, and that a lot of the other games don't either. You're playing through a story, not being in a story. And that is what this series did so well, was letting you be him and feel like you were him, and your choices mattered, and the world reacted to you, and you can make that run however you want it. So glorious, glorious games, glorious storytelling that gave us so much richness that kept going on, right? Kyle goes on to be in the books for
through the use of Long
years,
Invasion,
through the use of
through
Long
everything.
Wars, he's in there. So the Valley of the Jedi continued to exist. Korriban continued to exist. A lot of the lore and concepts.
Introduction of Korriban in Jedi Academy before KOTOR even touched it.
Oh, I thought that was in Dark Forces. I thought that was in Dark Forces too. But that doesn't hit until Academy.
No, Academy.
Okay.
Korriban. Yeah.
But so this series of games actually created lore that the rest of Star Wars continued to live with for a long, long time, and sat as a pillar of what Star Wars was supposed to be. And any of us who have played it know it's the best game, and it really immersed you and became part of you, and you got to be in it in just such wonderful, wonderful ways.
Well, looping back to what I hypothesized at the beginning, I think that the Dark Forces franchise is the spear point of a new awakening for Star Wars. Yes, there was contracts and books that were in the works, definitely, but the Star Wars franchise, the Star Wars fandom is a nerddom, right? We love the things that are nerdy, and video games, Star Wars, it was just a match made in heaven. People who play video games love Star Wars, people who love Star Wars play video games, and I can't help but feel like during the 90s, when you were playing Star Wars games, that's where a lot of the love and the passion and the expansion and the desire for more came from, was from these games. So, pleasure to talk about them, love talking about them. If you haven't played them, play them. They're on modern consoles, they're on modern systems, get to it,
And they're really
challenge
cheap
yourself.
on Steam.
So cheap, sales
So
all the
cheap
time.
on Steam.
If you've already played them, play them again. Like really, they're just very well worth it. Thanks for your time, guys. Thanks for
We
coming to
love
listen.
all this EU stuff. We're hoping to do another panel next year following some dance in the expanded universe. But this means so much to us. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.